Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anthony Bradley, and I'm the Regional Director for Africa and Europe for Macquarie University in Sydney. I'm not actually in Sydney at the moment. I'm in the UK, simply because I do so much traveling through Africa and Europe. It makes more sense for me to be based in the UK. Anyway, a little bit about Macquarie University. It's a large university based in Sydney, Australia. We have about 45,000 students, and it is a government university. In Australia, there are 42 universities, and all of them except one are government universities. Okay, so for those of you that have never been to Sydney, it is not the capital city. It is the largest city, but it is not the capital. So there are about 5.5 million people there. And it is the financial and the economic and industrial hub of the whole of Australia. It's also a very, very nice place to live and study. So one of the things, I'm actually English originally, but I did live in Australia for 20 years. And one of the things that I like about living over in Australia is they balance their lives very, very well. So I'm just going to say hello to Burche, hello to Semra. Thanks for tuning in. So the Australians, and hello to Lal. So in Australia, they balance their life, work hard, but they play hard. And if you just take a look at that picture, you can see that it's a very nice environment to be. So at the end of the day, when your pen goes down or your office door shuts, it's a great place to get out, to have a barbecue, to go for a swim, to go surfing, to hop on the ferry, to go and look at the opera house. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a very good place to study, but it's also a good place to live. So the balance is very, very nice. The lifestyle is good. The population is very multicultural. There's a very, very high level of safety. And for those students that are looking to take advantage of our post-study work opportunities, there is excellent employment in Sydney as well. As you well know, if you do 92 weeks of study in Australia, the government will give you a post-study work visa. And of course, that will allow you to do anything you want to. I mean, you can drive a taxi for 2 years if you want to. But what we recommend is that you use your time while you're studying to explore the different opportunities. Now, that's just a little bit of just a couple of pictures to show you the kind of lifestyle that you can expect. You've got, because of the weather is very, very nice in Sydney. It never really gets below 10 degrees. And in summer, it's absolutely gorgeous. So there's a very outdoor feel about it. If you look at some of those pictures, you can see the activity to do. You can go surfing. We've got aquariums. We've got a beach, beaches with open air pools, outdoor theatres, country walks. Then you've got all your artistic kind of activities like going to the museums and going to the theatres. So really there is something for absolutely everyone. Now, I was going to actually teach you a little, guys, before we started, a little bit of Australian slang. So this is sort of stuff I used to have to learn when I moved to Australia. Everybody saying hi or hello, they say g'day. Instead of afternoon, you hear them saying arvo. And then everyone ends their sentences with mate. G'day, mate. How are you, mate? But they also have a very strange tendencies to shorten all their words. So a postman is a Malo, and a barbecue is a Barbie, and a service station or petrol station is a servo. A sausage is a snag, a beer is a coldie, and a shark has the nickname of being called a Noah. So yes, of course we speak English in Australia, but we do have a slightly different sound and a little different accent and a slightly different dialect. You won't need to worry about that if you study at university. This is if you're only dealing with the locals. So a little bit about the university itself. It is a very large university. It's 126 hectares of land that we own, okay? So it's a government university, as I said, but the university owns the land it's on. It's a large university with 40,000 students. 25%, so roughly 1 in 4 students are international from over 130 different countries. We have a lot of courses. We are not an old university. We were established in 1964. And because that youth gives us the flexibility to really mix up the programs. So you can do single degrees, you can do double degrees, you can do one-year master's degrees married to other one-year master's degrees to create two-year master's degrees. So you have a lot of opportunity to choose between marrying degrees. You could do a Master's of International Business with a Master's of International Communication. You can do a Master's of Engineering with a Master's of Management. So you can really combine things very, very conveniently. Ranked very, very highly. Ranked top 1% of world universities. That's old information. We've just gone up a level. And we are the only university in Australia to have our own train station and our own hospital on campus. So what are we famous for? Now, these are some of the things that our research has produced. We've produced Big History, which is a groundbreaking way of teaching history. We also do a lot of work in audiology and health sciences research. Probably the most famous of those inventions on that picture is the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi was invented at Macquarie University. Two electrical engineers decided they wanted to see if they could transmit information without wires, and they successfully created the very first Wi-Fi chip. So that's one of the areas that we excel in. Now, that is a picture of the campus. As you can see, it's a very large campus. In the background, you can see Sydney itself. And in the foreground is the university. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see that we have places like Cochlear and Australian Hearing Hub. This is where our hospital is. This is the medical area of the university. A little bit further out towards the city, you can see names like Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, Oryx, Singtel Optus, Philips. This is part of our technological hub. So as I mentioned earlier, because we own the land, the university is allowed to create infrastructure, and we rent office space out to major companies as a secondary income stream for the university. So if you're going into the university with us to study something like telecommunications or IT or international business or international relations or medical studies, it's always a good idea to knock on the doors of these places to see if there are any part-time jobs. It's all on campus. In front of Microsoft, you can see the train station. And in the train station, obviously, that runs in and out of the city every 3 or 4 minutes. Most students will live on campus, at least for the first semester. And so there are 6 different accommodation blocks on the campus. So what we recommend is if you come and study with Macquarie University, you spend 1 semester living in the on-campus accommodation where you become part of the family, where you meet people, you join associations, you join clubs, you become familiar with the life as a Macquarie student. And then what normally happens is you will meet students, you will meet friends, and in the second semester, somebody will say, well, look, we're going to rent an apartment off campus. Would you like to join us? So there's a very natural way of moving off campus, but it is always a good idea to spend the first semester on campus. Over on the right, left-hand side, you'll see our hospital. And in the bottom left-hand corner, you will see Macquarie Graduate School of Management. That is where we teach our MBA and where we teach our Masters of Social Entrepreneurship. So this is it's not a multi-campus university. It is it's a single campus university, but it's very, very inclusive. It's like a small town. And running across the top of that picture, you can see the various accolades and awards that the university has received. One of the things that's very, very important, a little piece of advice for you when you are choosing a university, and I'm speaking impartially here, is that if you're going into a business program, or if you're going into an engineering program, or if you're going into a health program, you should always check which external accrediting bodies work with the university. So, for example, with Macquarie University, we are accredited by CPA, that's the Chartered Professional Accountants, which we are accredited by all the actuarial scientist groups. We are accredited by AACSB, which is a very large global conglomerate of international business schools. So it's always a good idea to check the external accreditation of the university's programs. Again, this is a little bit more about our rankings. We've got 5 QS stars for teaching, employability, research, internationalization, facilities, innovation, access, and specialist subjects. And we've got the top 50 in the world rankings for international university. And this international university, it does not mean how many international students you've got. It's job satisfaction. It's graduate outcomes. It's things like LinkedIn feedback. It's the whole kit and caboodle of how the international students link with the universities. Now then, again, it is a comprehensive university, which means that we don't just focus on one particular area, we focus on everything. Business programs, education programs, engineering and IT, environment, health and medical sciences, law and criminology, media, creative arts and communications, science, society, history and languages, and then your postgraduate business programs. So some of you will have already finished your bachelor's degree and you're looking to do a master's degree. Some of you may already have a master's degree and you want to do research into a PhD or a master's in research. Some of you may still be at high school and you want to go in and do a bachelor's degree. These are things that we do. So we would do a bachelor's degree, we do master's degrees, we do masters by research, and we do PhD. So as I said, we are a comprehensive university. We also have a very special downtown campus. So this is specifically for students that are doing an MBA program or a Masters of Applied Finance. And the reason we have this secondary campus is simply because it is more, if you're doing a postgraduate in high-level business or finance, you want to be where the action is. And that is where the university's second campus is. If you look at the nearest building, on the right-hand side of it, we're on floors 24 and 25. I imagine the rent for that little campus there is astronomical. We are also spending a lot of money on making the university a 21st century environment. A lot of universities run the risk of actually keeping the same blocks, the same infrastructure. Macquarie University is spending $500 million on developing the central part of the infrastructure for better accommodation, environmentally friendly buildings. So we are looking to have zero emissions and make much more use of renewable energies in terms of internally powering the university. So it's an ongoing thing that we want to adhere to, is that you want the university to move into the 21st century as inventions and developments and technologies develops as well. So again, comprehensive university, we have a faculty of arts, business and economics, human sciences, medicine and health, science and engineering, Macquarie Graduate School of Management, and Macquarie University International College. That bottom section, the Macquarie University International College, this is for students who have finished high school but do not meet the direct entry programs for a bachelor's degree. So let's say, for example, you come out of high school and your scores are a little bit low for direct entry into a business program. You can do a diploma or a foundation program in Macquarie University International College and then go into the program when you finish. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we don't like to turn anybody away, regardless of what your education background is, that we will find a pathway into the programs that you want to go into. Now, I don't want to spend a long time on all this, but these are some of the areas that you could look at studying. In our Faculty of Arts, we have things like ancient history, anthropology, English, geography and planning, right the way down to sociology, policing, intelligence, counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and we do this at bachelor's and master's level as well. Business and economics, this is probably our biggest faculty. We have a very, very good global ranking for accounting and corporate governance, applied finance and actuarial studies. We're ranked in the top 10 in the whole world for actuarial studies, economics, marketing and management. Medicine and health. Students that want to go and become a doctor, you can actually do that full training with us. A lot of students want to go into clinical sciences or medical sciences or human sciences, cognitive science, psychology, teaching, linguistics. These are all areas of strength with us as well. Science and engineering, very, very important. Probably one of the highest levels of employment in Australia is amongst engineers. So we do things like software engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, mechatronic engineering, which is robotics. But we also do the more pure sciences like biological sciences, chemistry, chiropractic, mathematics, physics and astronomy, and statistics. Now, some students, they want a higher profile. Some students are very happy to lecture and just get on with it. Other students want a higher profile. So we have something called the GLP, the Global Leadership Program. And any student can sign up for it. And what it does is it gives you a higher profile. We use you as an international student to, for example, go into a local high school to talk about being a Turkish student in Australia. We use you to do presentations, to do symposiums, to attend conferences. So you're given an ambassadorial role within the university. Now, it's not a paid program, but it does give you a much higher profile that you can then add on to your CV. And of course, the number of contacts and number of networks that you will actually develop as a result of it is quite impressive. I mentioned accommodation. So we have a number of accommodations on campus. If you look at the top left there, Macquarie University Village, this is the largest accommodation block. And it is generally more catered towards bachelor's degrees or people that like to hang around in groups. The other kinds of accommodation that we have cater for more mature students, students that don't want to go partying every night, students that maybe they have families, students that are doing PhD work. So what I'm saying is that we have different levels of accommodation depending on what kind of a lifestyle you want. Very important is this. Now, you know, whenever we talk about our programs, we talk about the university, we bang on about how wonderful the programs are, but we often forget to mention student support. Now, all of you guys, if you study in Australia, you've probably traveled around Europe, you're probably multilingual, but it doesn't mean that when you go to Australia that you won't experience a bit of culture shock. You might be a little bit depressed. You might find yourself a long way from home. So the university really does put a lot of effort into making sure that if you do study with us, you have a good time. So these are a number of the items that we do for student support. We will pick you up at the airport. There'll be a sign with your name on it at the airport. We have a campus well-being, which is counseling, disability, welfare, finance. So if you find that you're feeling like you're missing your parents or you're missing your partner or you're feeling a little bit homesick or something, you've had a bit of bad news, we have trained psychologists and guidance counselors that can help you. We've got a mentoring system which allows you to meet other students. If you find that for one reason or another you're having financial issues, you can go and speak to the campus wellbeing and they will talk you through your options. We have disability and welfare counselors. So if you have a disability, as long as we know in advance, we will make every effort to make your life as smooth as possible with us. We've got a medical clinic on campus. We've got a hospital on campus. We've got a numeracy and learning skills workshop. These are free. So if you're studying and you're having problems with structuring assignments, or you're having problems with some aspect of communication, we have workshops and skills groups where we can help you. Conversation classes, English language classes, and we also have a careers and employment service. Now, as you probably know, when you go and study in Australia, you're on a student visa. As part of your student visa, you have a work permit embedded in that visa. And this allows you to work for a maximum of 40 hours over 2 weeks. So as long as you don't do more than 40 hours of 2 weeks, you can do whatever job you can find. Okay? The priority is the study, but most students, international and domestic students, all will try and find work at some point. Now, how much does it cost? So this is not the cost of the programs. This is the cost of living. For those of you in Istanbul, you know that living in a big city is quite expensive. And this is roughly what you're looking at for Sydney. University accommodation from 175 up to 570 bucks a week. Groceries and eating out, 80 to 200. That's entirely up to you. If you're going to eat McDonald's and drink beer every day, you're going to need a big budget. If you're going to drink water and grow your own vegetables, you're going to have a lower budget. On average, that will be your groceries expenditure, between 80 and 200 bucks a week. Gas and electricity, phone and internet, public transport, movies and general lifestyle, takeaway food, and a cup of coffee. So this is roughly what you're looking at. When I speak to international students, I put a sort of a budget of 21,000 Australian dollars per year. That is what you're going to need for a good, healthy lifestyle to live in Australia for 1 year. Now, this is for Africa. I've got African students there, I'm sorry, so I'll go back. If you are a European student, we will automatically give you a $5,000 discount per year off your degree. So on average, our degrees cost between 30 and 37,000 Australian dollars per year. If you are a European student, and because 2% of Turkey is in Europe, I have managed to convince the university that Turkey is a European country. Therefore, we will give you a $5,000 discount per year of study. So if you're doing a 3-year Bachelor of Business, you can take 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 off that program. If you're doing a 2-year Master's, you will save $10,000. Now, on top of that, if your grade at high school or your grade at bachelor's level is above 75%, we can also give you additional discounts of between $1,000 and $5,000. So as a Turkish citizen, you're guaranteed $5,000 discount per year. And then depending on your grade, you can then knock $1,000 to $5,000 off that as well. Now, that is pretty much the end of that presentation. So now I'm going to open up the floor to any questions. I can see running down the right-hand side of my screen, there's a number of people have signed in. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Don't be shy. You can even write it in Turkish and I might be able to understand it because I did live in Turkey 30 years ago. Okay, so we've got a few questions. Can you please tell us about cost and fees? That's Eylem Bulutgul. Okay, well, I've mentioned the costs and the fees. You need a budget for the program, which will be about $37,000 minus the $5,000 because you're Turkish. So you're looking at about $32,000, $33,000 per year for the program, plus a budget of about $20,000 per year for food, accommodation, and transport. Now, if you find part-time work in Australia, you can make anywhere up to $300 to $400 per week. Now, that's not guaranteed. Some do make that amount of money. But you shouldn't bank on that. You shouldn't guarantee. It's not guaranteed, but certainly you can supplement your income by working part-time during the semester and full-time when you during the holidays. Plus, when you finish the program, as long as it is a 2-year program, you can stay in Australia for 2 years to work. This is from Fikret Kırık. Any sports activities, basketball, university teams, scholarships. Now then, so Macquarie, in that picture of the campus, let's go back to that campus picture. Where was it? Down in the bottom right-hand corner is an Olympic standard sports center. It's got 2 swimming pools, basketball courts, tennis courts, cricket courts, football courts, rugby courts, you name it. We do have scholarships for sports, but to be eligible for that scholarship, you have to be national representative at your country. So national or state level representation in Turkey or wherever you're from. So we do have scholarships. It's not like America. They're not full scholarships. It's, I think, about $1,000. They give you a uniform. You have to play for the university team, and they're very flexible with your timetabling. So it's not like the American free ride system. It is simply fantastic. You're good at basketball. We would love to have you at the university team, and they will make life a little bit easier for you. But it does not give you that kind of academic financial support. Nergiz Yaman, how they work in history. Could you explain what do you mean by that question, Nergiz? How they work in history. Okay, while Nergit is writing a little bit more about that, does anybody have any more questions? Okay, historical studies. So we have a number of historical studies. So you can do a Bachelor of Ancient History. You can do a Bachelor of Archaeology. You can do it's a 3-year bachelor's degree as part of the social sciences. You can do a master's degree of humanities with historical studies. So like I said, it's a standard program. In fact, if you're interested in something like archaeology or ancient history, we are the only university in Australia with a license to dig in the River Nile. Oh, hang on, somebody put something up there. Yeah, so basically we do a lot. We do a lot of ancient history studies, archaeology studies, and general modern history as well. PhD applications. Now then, PhD, this is from Feyza Aktaş. A PhD application is probably the most complicated of all of them because you have to have, number one, a good level master's degree, but number two, you also have to already contact a supervisor at the university. So you need to actually go on to, I can send you the links. I can send you all these links afterwards. I will give everybody my email address, and so you can actually email me if you want any more information. But you'll need to go onto our website and look under the title of research, and then it will say, how do you apply? You have to actually contact a supervisor. You have to develop a thesis, and you have to actually establish a relationship with a supervisor before they will accept you onto a PhD. What are we else? For the bachelor and master's degrees, what are the lowest GPA and language requirements? So bachelor and master's, bachelor's degree, you basically have to have, I think it's 70% at high school. And to get into the master's degree, you have to have, we travel at about 70% for the lowest entry. Okay. English language requirements, if you are doing IELTS, you must have a minimum of 6.5 in IELTS, with nothing lower than 6.0. So Feyza Aktaş is asking about language proficiency test. Yes, you do. Unless you have done your bachelor's degree or master's degree in English within the last 2 years. So even if you're a Turkish citizen, if you did your bachelor's degree in London, and you want to apply to us, as long as you completed your bachelor's degree within 2 years, you don't need an English language test. If you've done everything in Turkish, you will need to have a minimum of 6.5. Obviously, if you're going into education, teaching, law, medicine, it goes higher and higher and higher. So you got reading, writing, listening, and speaking, 6.5 overall, nothing lower than 6.0. So this is from Ege Bijan. When should we pay the fees, and are there any opportunities having a loan? Okay, so there are 2 entry points to our university. End of February, end of July. So the end of semester 1, so semester 1 begins at the end of February, semester 2 begins at the end of July. Now, for a Turkish citizen, you make an application to us, we give you an offer. You accept the offer, we give you a confirmation. You apply for a visa. That whole system is going to take between 10 and 12 weeks. So if you are looking at February start, your application really needs to be in by the previous November, December. Okay? Now, when you accept the offer, you pay for 1 semester's fees. So let's say, for example, you want to do a Master's of International Business. Usual cost, $37,000. Turkish citizen, minus $5,000, making it $32,000 for 1 year. Your first payment is 6 months, so that would be $16,000. As soon as we receive that initial payment, we give you your confirmation number, and the confirmation number is what you need to actually apply for your visa. In terms of having a loan, the Australian education system does not allow us to give loans to international students. If you're looking for a loan, it needs to be done from your home country. So you would need to look at loan systems available to you out of Turkey. Any other questions? Has anybody been to Australia? Got 15 people here. Has anybody been to Australia before? So the very first question is from Eylem Bulut Gul. Do we have to know Australian? No, you just have to know English. And when you get there, you'll pick up the Australian slang. You'll pick up the phrases and the terminology. It's just like, for example, as an English person, when I went there, you just have to listen to the new accent and the new words and vocabulary. You'll pick it up fine. Do we need a car if we live out of campus? That's an excellent question. No, you don't. So Sydney is a big city of 5.5 million people. The public transport system is very, very good in Sydney. So we've got buses. We've got a very, very comprehensive train network. Addition to that, we've got Ubers and taxis and bicycles and things like that. But in answer to your question, you don't need a car. If you are looking to go from Sydney and drive up the coast and visit lots of little towns and villages, you might. But to get around Sydney, absolutely not. In fact, it's probably cheaper and easier not to drive a car, but to actually use the train system. If you live off campus, there are lots and lots of buses that run into the university. Plus, as I said, we have our own train station, which means that, as long as you're living near a train station, walk to the train station, hop on the train, straight into the university. Any other questions, guys? I'm surprised. Usually I get a question about spiders or sharks. Don't worry about them. The spiders are only about this big. And the sharks are not very big. The sharks will only take 1 or 2 fingers. No problem at all. I'm kidding. The wildlife in Australia is not likely to harm you at all. Onur is laughing at my joke. How many years does a PhD take? That's another very, very good question. So when you do a PhD nominally should only take you 3 years. However, most international students, when they arrive in Australia, they have no previous history or understanding of Australian methodology, and that 3 years becomes 4 years. What we recommend you do is, if you want to do a PhD, Faiza, then you maybe want to consider doing 1 year of research with us. And that Masters of Research, we will help you to find a supervisor, to develop the structure of your thesis, to find funding. So after 1 year, when you finish that Masters of Research, it's like a soft entry into a PhD. You have your thesis and your dissertation ready. Maybe you found some funding. You've got a supervisor. You've been in Australia for 1 year, so you've got an apartment. You've got friends. So what I'm saying is that usually for international students, a PhD is going to take you a minimum of 4 years, whether you do it 3 years plus 1 extra year, or 1 year of Masters of Research plus your PhD. Any other questions, guys? Who's talking? My pleasure. My pleasure, Nergis. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. If you want my email address, I think on the invitation to this webinar, my email address is there. If not, my name is Anthony Bradley. And if you type Anthony Bradley Macquarie into Google, you'll get my email address. Okay, let me put my email address up for you all to see. There we go. Can everybody see my email address there that I've replied to Faiza, or is it only Faiza that can see it? Ah, thank you, Onur. Çok teşekkürler. Does anybody have any more questions? So I guess, look, okay, thank you, Faiza. So look, I guess to recap, I've got a couple of minutes left. To recap, before you know, if you're thinking of going to Australia, you know, do your research. Okay, there's 42 universities. I'm just one of them. Macquarie is a good university. We're beginning to see good numbers of Turkish students coming to study with us. We have a lot of very flexible programs. So like I said, you may want to do a 2-year master's degree. You can actually take a 1-year master's degree and a second 1-year master's degree and map it onto each other. You'll need a budget of about $21,000, $22,000. Look, it's not cheap, right? Studying in Australia is not a cheap venture, but in the long term, it does pay off. Look, I can see that Onur is there. Onur and his brother have both lived in Australia. And it's not cheap, but it pays off well. The lifestyle is very good. The employment opportunities are good. Security is very good. Corruption and crime is very, very low. It's got a very, very big, powerful middle class in Australia. And the police have a good salary, which means the corruption levels and crime rates are very, very low. And there's a lot of space. One more question. Let's have a look. Tasmania monster. Ah, okay. You mean the Tasmanian devil, right? Tasmanian devil, I think, it's called a thylacine. And and it is an animal that used to live in Tasmania, and everyone now thinks it is extinct. But every now and again, some crazy guy comes out of the woods, says, no, I think I've seen one of them. So probably they're extinct, but who knows? Any other questions? No? Any other? Let me just have a quick look. So please feel free. Like I said, I've got my email addresses up there. If you want to ask me a private question, like a sort of personal question about programs or costs, please get in touch. Oh, a perfect presentation. Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I have done one or two of these before. And actually, because of this whole coronavirus, I'm finding myself doing 2 or 3 of these presentations every single day. So drop me a line, send me an email. I'm more than happy to help you with any questions you've got, any application processes. If you want to use our education representatives to help you submit an application, I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction for that. Look, we are beginning to see, Turkish students wanting to try somewhere new like Australia to study. And Sydney is a very welcoming place. There's a very good group, a Turkish group of people that live in Sydney. So you've got access to all your foods and stuff like that. So even though it is quite exotic, it's not so exotic, it's going to blow your mind.
Anthony, thank you very much. It was a great presentation, really. We learned a lot today.
No worries. So, yeah, thanks. So I guess, is it finished now, or what, have we closed it down?
Yeah, I think there is no more questions and we just ran out of our time. So they can contact you on your email if they want to ask more questions.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, everybody. See you all. Thank you very much for tuning in to Macquarie Radio and television. And like I said, email me if you've got any questions. I'll be more than happy to help you out.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.